Well, I was thinking of this old joke and the story about this Scotsman who moved to New York City. He was going to getting a job, looking for a job, setting up his own apartment. A young man, and after a few weeks, his mother called him to ask how he was settling in, and he said, "Oh, it's just terrible. It's terrible. All day long, some crazy guy bangs on the wall and yells, 'I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore.'" His mother says, "Oh, that's just terrible." The Scotsman said, "And that's not all. On the other side, some woman cries and moans all day long." The mother says, "Oh, son, if I were you, I'd just be keeping to myself." And he said, "Oh, I do, Mom. I just sit in my room all day and play the bagpipes." Music joke. Well, it leads in a little bit to the idea I want to share, because it sort of has to do with our influence on one another. But I've been taken with this idea of, for a long time, the idea of darshan. I'm not sure I'm saying that correctly, but it's a word from the East. Darshan, it's spelled D-A-R-S-H-A-N. It's the practice, the spiritual practice, the understanding of simply being in the presence of an enlightened one. Lifts you up. You get some of that mind state. It rubs off on you. Darshan is the practice. It's understood very strongly as a part of spiritual practice in the East. I've always been very interested in that. And we think of that like Gandhi was always followed by throngs of people wanting to be in his presence, wanting to be near him. That goes way back. The Buddha had thousands of followers, wanting some of that darshan, that energy, wanting to be around him. Jesus had crowds following him in the marketplaces, in the temples, all the time. Very recognized aspect of spiritual practice. Be near someone who's enlightened. Be near someone who gives off good energy. It'll lift you up. It'll raise you up a little bit. I think it's absolutely true. It's a powerful aspect of spiritual practice we don't recognize enough in the West, and we don't really have a word for it, do we? The closest word we might come up with is something like influence, which is kind of watered down, darshan, because it's stronger than that. It's a stronger thing than that. Influence, impact, it's about the best we can do in English. But we all have the same experience that is talked about in all the ancient teachings. I was remembering that one of my favorite scriptures. It's in both Matthew and Mark, about the woman who's been having bleeding for 12 years. And she pursues Jesus in the crowd for healing. Do you remember the story? She's heard about this great teacher. She's been to doctor after doctor. She's spent all her money. She hasn't been healed. But she hears about this great teacher, and she wants to be near him. Darshan in action. And she has this conviction, if she can just touch his clothing, touch the hem of his cloak, she'll be healed. And she pushes through the crowd, and she pushes in on him. And she felt immediately that her bleeding had stopped, and she felt well in her body. And when this happened, Jesus realized that, quote, power had gone out from him. He understood this darshan. Energy was flowing through him as a very conscious and enlightened being, and he turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" Power had gone out from him. Power goes out in a way from all of us. It's what kind of energy we're putting out there, and to what degree. How healing is that energy? Does our energy raise up others? Does it lift up or not? And I think that darshan is something that's really helpful to reflect on for all of us spiritually. We have kind of interesting scientific explanation for darshan now. There's a book by Daniel Goleman called Social Intelligence, and it's about the social brain and how interconnected we all are. And he talks about in our brain cells, we have cells he calls mirror neurons that reflect back. I mean, we reflect each other. You know, there's this interconnection and interaction going on all the time, and what we're projecting, others are feeling, and it's bouncing back and forth between us. And he said, this really is an explanation for darshan. He says, people go to be with a calm, loving awareness because the social brain, the way our brains work, makes that state of mind contagious to anyone in their presence. That's what that woman in the crowd was hoping for from Jesus, that it was contagious. She knew that. Those around can receive a little bit of that mind state. We can literally raise each other up. I think that's kind of a remarkable thing to reflect on and a remarkable responsibility to consider. So just kind of heedless venting on someone may be more damaging than we think. And it may be more powerful than we think, the bit of kindness we put out there, the good energy we think, holding somebody else in the light, as we talk about often in prayer. It's a phrase we use for prayer. Lifting someone up in prayer may be a lot more powerful than we realize. Darshan. I think we've all had experiences of it, to some degree, in varying degrees, sometimes remarkable ones. I think I have shared before one I had years ago in college. So I was quite young, maybe 19, something like that, going through a bad depression away at school, and not going out of my room. It's like it had turned into agoraphobia too. I was very anxious and depressed. And my worried mother came down from northern Ohio and put me on the phone with her minister down in Cincinnati, who had been the first minister in my life. He was sort of my godfather too. And just put me on the phone with him, and all I had to do was listen. And he raised me up. We call it distance healing. That was a phrase we might use for that. But I don't remember particular words. There were words about how there was a power in me, that there was a God, a spirit in me that was more powerful than anything. But I remember it wasn't about the words, it wasn't a verbal thing, it was an energy thing. And I remember getting off the phone and feeling like clouds had lifted. Clouds had lifted from around my head. I had experienced that raising up from being, even over the phone, experiencing the energy of a more enlightened being. Some of you, I bet, had experiences like that, where you just were with someone and you felt you could breathe better, you were lifted up a little bit, clouds had cleared a little bit. What a gift that is. That's a darshan experience. That's a real spiritual experience we all have. It's important to know, I think, that it works both ways, too. It kind of works the other way, too. And we've probably all had experiences of that, too. I remember in my grad school years, I had a friend who'd come, after she got a job at a college, she'd come back to town for weekends quite often and stay. And, she had not thought much about it in our grad school years as friends, but she vented a lot, you know what I mean? It was kind of the way she had just become accustomed to experiencing and processing emotions, was a lot of venting them verbally, late into the night. Ever experienced this? Kind of exhausting. I would be exhausted. And nothing malicious about it, certainly, but exhausting. To have all that kind of energy coming at you so relentlessly. And I would be exhausted by the end of the visit, and often would come down with a cold or something. I'd just be kind of depleted and weary and open to illness in a way I wouldn't have been otherwise. Certainly not a gift my friend intended. But it's the kind of thing that can happen when we're not really very conscious of what we're putting out, what kind of energy we're putting out, and how that might impact others, because it does impact others. The good kind and the bad. So that's something that's kind of part of our consciousness we need to cultivate about it, that it goes both ways, and it can be very powerful. We all have this kind of darshan experience and energy. And I think it's wonderful and inspiring to take note of practitioners of it, people who seem to be conscious of the energy they're putting out, the kind of energy they want to put out, and they're stepped up to that. And they're doing it, and the incredible impact that's having on others. I like to take those stories in and let them raise me up, because it gives us all encouragement. I just caught a story about a Peruvian ballet teacher, a woman in Peru, 52-year-old woman in Peru, a former professional ballet dancer named Maria del Carmen Silva. And she decided to bring classical ballet to the impoverished areas of Peru. Did any of you catch any news stuff about it? I thought it was just a wonderful story. Most people in Peru, ballet is like for the rich, because the vast majority of Peruvians, they live on $105 a month. I don't know where they got that figure, but that's not much. And running water is the luxury. There isn't any money for leotards and costumes and tutus and point shoes. and ballet lessons. But she's got into public schools in this very impoverished area of Peru, and she takes her dancers to dance competitions, often into wealthier neighborhoods where the competitions are held. She's hoping to take them to an international dance competition in Florida later this year. It's remarkable, the impact on the girls in her ballet classes. One girl, 16-year-old Maria, said, "When I dance, it's as if I'm flying." She's been raised up. She's been raised up. Isn't that marvelous? And all those little girls are being raised up, are being lifted up. They're experiencing, they're interacting with girls from other neighborhoods, much wealthier neighborhoods. They're all dancing together. She says, "We're like sisters now. We're like sisters." Her initiative has sparked new dreams in the minds of these girls. Their parents, all dance classes, proud parents are peering in the windows of the studio, watching their daughters become ballet dancers. What a wonderful thing that is. I think so many girls aspire to be ballerinas, don't they? Isn't that still true? I think it's not something a lot of girls want to do, just there's something elegant and powerful at the same time about magical, about ballet, and she's seeing them that way. This seems to be one of the big gifts of darshan energy that we underestimate. Those girls have probably never been seen in this way before in their family, in their neighborhood. And they go in and they're around this teacher who has this proud, professional ballet dancer energy, and she sees them as professional, as potentially these elegant, powerful ballet dancers, and she's projecting that. This is how she sees them. Imagine how that raises them. A new way of seeing themselves. I think it's something going on in our midst all the time. It's very inspiring, life-changing for those dancers, for their families, for the people who watch them dance. That's amazing, the ripple effects, how far that might go. I've been thinking of people in my personal history, in ways great and small. I was remembering a wonderful musical friend, a music director they had at Unity of Columbus for many years, Sharon West. I know many of you remember Sharon West. Sharon West had a gift for bringing the voice out in people. She believed everybody could sing without exception. If you can talk, you can sing. That was her motto. If you can talk, you can sing. And she brought the voice out in people, you never would have believed it. And she'd get them up, she'd do a vocal workshop. It was like a several-week thing. They'd meet, and then they'd have a final performance. And they would all get out there and belt these things out. You couldn't believe what she had brought out in them. And a big part of the reason she was able to do that is she saw everybody as a singer. You've got this energy in you. I can see it. Let her rip. She could see it. I remember once, I think it was Josiana and I, we were working together on a duet. We were going to sing at church. And she was coaching us on it. What was the song? I can't remember what the song was, but we were both a little tentative about it, and a little shy, a little holding back a little bit as we were kind of singing it for Sharon. And so she coached us. She said she wanted us to use an affirmation. We should say, "I am diva. I am diva." That's just to empower us. And we both were trying it on. "I'm diva." Well, you try that as an affirmation, it'll start raising you up inside if you do it enough times. It worked. We all got over at Unity of Columbus in that day, I think, bolder about using our whatever musical gifts we've been given, cultivating some more, boldly trying them out. If we messed up, big deal. If you get lost, start again, whatever, just keep going. Sharon West had that darshan energy about her, empowering people through their voices. Something I think it's important to remember, and Goldman makes a point about this in his book about social intelligence. He talks about the power factor in our ability to send energy out. It's an important part of that responsibility for what we project, to keep in mind that those who are culturally in a position of greater power, what they're sending out has more impact. So, like the boss at work, or the parent in the family, or the teacher like Sharon West with us, the vocal teacher like you in your studio, like, anybody in the group who's like in the role where they have the greater influence or the leadership. what they're sending out has even more oomph because it's coming from them. So like a parent who's criticizing a child isn't getting it. That's not going to work. But a parent who is saying, you are so gifted. It's amazing the gifts you have. Oof, that is going to lift up like crazy. The teacher who's going to say that to their students, instead of saying that they're doing crappy work and criticizing, judging, if they're saying, what a smart person you are, what a tremendous intelligence is flowing in you. I can see it growing by leaps and bounds. How people rise to that, it's powerful. There's a power factor to it. And Goldman talks about it, actually, they've measured it. It increases our neural ability, our brain capacity, when we get positive messages from those in influence around us. Wow, it's really kind of calls us to a level of accountability if we really reflect on that, the impact. And I think in all our lives, we have felt it both ways, haven't we? There have been people of influence in our lives who did not say kind, empowering things to us, who have even torn us down or criticized us. And there have been in all our lives, thank God, it's probably why we're here today sitting, there have been those, if only one, there was somebody who said, you know, you've got so many gifts, you are terrific, love you. Something to build us up, and we responded to that. The oomph of that, the power of that is tremendous, is incredible, and it can overcome and overshadow a good deal of criticism and negativity to have words like that coming at us from people of influence. So we can be that for ourselves, for each other. We can use that same talk with ourselves. Would you agree? Similar thing. We are the persons of influence for ourselves. And when I put myself down, I am doing myself a disservice. I am decreasing my neural ability. I am making it less possible for me to excel, to be my best, to use my gifts. So we need to build ourselves up as well. Tell ourselves good things about ourselves and do that same projection with others. Putting out good energy, good darshan, that people around us just feel a little better, feel a little lifted up just by being in our presence. I'd like to claim that today, wouldn't you? I'm that kind of an energy, that kind of a spirit that just being around me lifts others up. I don't want to be the one that just kind of brings people down for some reason. They don't even know why. They just feel more somber. We don't want that. We want to be uplifters. We want to be good darshan projectors. So practicing darshan every day comes down to accountability. We're all senders and we're all receivers, so we can't pretend we're just victims in the world. We all have a responsibility. That energy's flowing through us. We want to be conscious senders as much as we can. We probably all vent a little bit once in a while, but we can become more conscious of what we're putting out there. We can find some new strategies for dealing with the difficult emotions that are not just a lot of verbal venting that impact others. We can be conscious receivers. We can be conscious not to take too much bad energy in this era of social media and so on. I think we really have to watch our perimeters, watch our limits a little bit on how much bad mojo we are taking in. Monitor that, limit that. And we can put ourselves in the presence, as conscious receivers, we can put ourselves in the presence of people who lift us up, can't we? One of the reasons I come here on Sunday mornings, it's uplifting. I hear uplifting music, I see uplifting people, I hear ideas that engage in prayer. It's uplifting for me. We need that in our lives. We need people and places and communities that help raise us up, And we can be intentional receivers in terms of receiving from God. So that's really the source where it starts. Communing with God in any way we can, in prayer, in meditation, in nature, in quiet moments during our days, to just take a moment to open up and realize the power and presence of God is flowing through me. And I can be a channel for that. And I can rest in it and not work so hard and let God do that energy, that work through me. Our neural ability will be enhanced by all this. We'll be sending out good energy. That darshan energy will be flowing through us. So I'd like to affirm that for all of us this morning. Here's my affirmation for the day. The power of God flows through me. and enables me to empower others. Let me say that again. The power of God flows through me and enables me to empower others. It's a good affirmation to take. Let's close our eyes for a moment and affirm that within. That power and presence of God that lives within each one of us flows through us without obstruction. There are no barriers to it. We are wide open to its influence. We let God's loving kindness flow through us, God's peace steady us and flow outward to steady others, God's love to abide with us, to enfold us, and to flow out through us, to love others, to uplift others. How grateful we are to be channels of the living God. So it is. Amen.